Good, yeah.
Okay, welcome to the Almont Board of Education budget hearing on June 23rd, 2025 at 6:02 p.m. And if we can please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Burrow, could you do roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Wade?
Here.
Mr. Burns?
Here.
Ms. Frederickson?
Here.
Mr. Eckert? Here. Mr. Burrow? Here. Ms. Rotarius?
Here.
Ms. Smith?
Here,
We have all seven.
thank you. Adoption of agenda, any addition?
No,
Any deletion?
no.
Okay.
This is the preparation and legal aspects of the budget. I'm going to be reading that to you. The budget hearing. Welcome to tonight's meeting regarding the 2025-2026 budget for the Almont Community School District. The following information is intended to assist you in understanding this evening's proceedings. The preparation of the budget to be presented this evening was compiled by the administration of the school district. Input was received from various staff members who provided information in their particular program or area of knowledge. The Board of Education has long maintained a focus on being fiscally responsible and has established goals and objectives each year with the specific intent of achieving fiscal responsibility. Legal aspects of the budget. By conducting a budget hearing, the Almont Board of Education is complying with Michigan laws, which mandate that a public hearing on the budget be conducted prior to its formal adoption by a governing body. These laws also require that the Board of Education provide notice of the budget hearing by publication in a newspaper of general circulation at least 6 days prior to the hearing. The notice must include the time and place of the hearing, as well as the following statement. The property tax millage rate proposed to be levied to support the proposed budget will be a subject of this hearing. Provide notice as to the place where a copy of the budget will be available for the public inspection prior to the hearing. Notice for tonight's hearing was provided in the Tri-City Times, a newspaper of general circulation on Wednesday, June 4th, Wednesday, June 11th, and Wednesday, June 18th, 2025. In addition to stating the time and place for the budget hearing, the notice also indicated that a copy of the budget would be available via email on Friday, June 20th, 2025. The required statement regarding the property tax millage rate to be levied in support of the budget is also included. After the budget presentation this evening, the agenda provides time for public comments and/or questions. Please feel free to take advantage of this opportunity. And now we're going to move to our budget presentation for 2024, 2025, and for 2025, 2026. I'm going to turn it over to our Administrator of Finance, Kathy Merrifield.
As Kim mentioned, we're going to be discussing the current year amended budget and the fiscal year 25-26 proposed budget for next year. Wanted to reiterate that we can only estimate our funding. We were given information by the House Fiscal Agency on June 10th, and those amounts provided were the amounts used to estimate the revenue or funding of this year's budget. Wanted to just present right away the fund balance, the proposed amended budget ending fiscal year 24-25, which is on June 30, 2025. We are at a blended student count as per the student aid membership on the student aid financial report as 1,389.7 students. Total revenues at $18,627,798. Total expenditures at $17,404,810. That gives us to an ending fund balance of $3,877,821. And this amended budget is based off of the estimated and projected actual amounts to end at June 30. Please keep in mind that this again is a proposal. This is a budget. This is an estimate of where we're going to end on June 30th. There are still a week left of the month. There are accruals that need to be made. And immediately after this, we will be starting the audit process, which, we've already carefully gone through what the accruals would be. At the audit process is when things are reviewed again by several CPAs, and we just match our numbers. The fiscal year proposed budget, we are estimating a blended student count of 1,350. We are using an actual student count estimate of 1,346. We are presenting to you a zero-based budget and reflecting no deficit spending. The total revenues, actual total expenditures at $17,846,800. The funding balance will be the same because of the zero budget. To reiterate from the budget meeting last week, I did change a few things to give you an update. Again, the student aid membership blend is at $13.89. The audited fall count is at 1,388.54. The audited spring count is at 1,373.50, a decrease of 15.04 students. In fiscal year 25-26, we use an estimated, I emphasize estimated, enrollment of 1,346 students, which is a 27.5 decrease. We are assuming a foundation allowance of $10,000 this year. And the revenue funding assumptions, again, we're taking from the House Fiscal Agency House Bill 4577, dated June 10th. Again, the other costs and increases that we see every year are your typical ORS rates, the health cap, utilities, costs, and inflation. Our P&C insurance increased 5.22%, and we use an estimated 3% increase in revenue for general property tax. More assumptions, the fiscal year 26 proposed budget process was used to estimate the estimate amounts were taken from actual amounts from 24-25 as estimated through June 30 with all accruals. One thing that is changed from the presentation last week is the Chromebook refresh. We needed to postpone it in this budget proposal, and that estimate was $79,000. And again, we use the estimated average increases for eligible teachers and staff. And again, I wanted to keep saying and emphasizing that the budget includes estimates and projections, that actual results will vary. A little discussion on revenue. The state funding impact per pupil, this was revised to include an enrollment of 1,346 students. So that affects our per pupil increase by $95.20. I wanted to show again our student enrollment history for the last 11 fiscal years. And this is our amended 2024-25 year proposed revenues and the 25-26 year proposed revenues side by side in comparison to the February 2025 amended budget. Expenses. This is a summary of our expenses for the 2024-25 proposed amended budget at $17,404,810, and the 25-26 proposed budget total expenditures at $17,846,800. And at this time, we'd like to open up for questions.
Any questions? Board.
Ms. Smith,
Mr. Byrne.
not so much a question. I just wanted to really thank Mrs. Merrifield, Mrs. Van Heltmeyer for all the work put into this. I know it was a lot, and appreciate the effort.
Questions, anybody? And at this time? Mr. Effort.
Discussion on whether we should zero budget.
Well, I do know that we met with the finance committee this past week, so I believe June 19th, right, June 19th, and after meeting with the finance committee, the recommendation was to move forward. It kind of mirrored, right, the best case scenario, which was a zero-based budget. There's some clarification in that meeting, and wanted to proceed, I guess, with that scenario in mind. So the best case scenario, and to go into the school year with a zero-based balanced budget. Most fiscally responsible, I believe, with, our variables that we have before us. Again, we have to be fiscally responsible in consideration of what happened last year too, which I know is weighing heavily on the board's minds as far as, bonds, sinking fund, and not having those approved last year. Hoping, obviously to move forward and get that, reestablished, I hope, sooner than later. But I believe that is some of the strong factors, and also to consider that our student enrollment is declining. And I know the board would like us to have a deeper reflection upon that as we make, fiscal decisions. So that's part of that decision.
Any other questions at this time? And then more discussion we can have at the regular meeting too.
During the budget time.
I also want to echo Mr. Burns' sentiment. So thank you, Mr. Merrifield and Mrs. Von Heltmeyer, and I'm sure Mr. Myers had some involvement with it too. So for all your hard work on it. Questions and comments from the public. If anybody would like to be recognized, please come up to the podium, state your first and last name. You'll have 3 minutes. Just as a reminder, this is not a back and forth question and answer. If there's anything that needs to be addressed, our superintendent will so address afterwards.
Paul Bowman, I just got a question. The last meeting I was to, there were 3 different budgets. And I guess my question is does this budget include replacing all the staff that has retired this year, and also no layoffs? If this is the same number of teachers and staff that we're going to have that we had this year, we're going to have for next year. Is that true?
Thank you.
As a budget hearing, public budget hearing, I should be able to have an answer to that.
I didn't know if you guys were going to go through that stuff now.
Because this is a hearing for this is a hearing for the public, not, much for the board is for the public. So
Mr.
hopefully.
Bowman, the reduction, there is a proposed reduction for a full-time teacher going to a part-time status.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't know if we were going to do all the stuff in the room, not now, or if we were doing that after that.
I think it's all encompassed in the budget.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Michael Flynn with the AEA. The AEA is having growing concerns about this upcoming budget. The Almont school staff is what makes our schools perform as they are. Without them, our scores would not be some of the best in the area. And therefore, this teaching staff should be compensated at that same rate. With a zero-based budget and the projected fund balance of over 20%, I do not see how this can be accomplished. It's the intention for the school not to be a savings institution, instead using that money to pay a high-quality staff, providing materials and maintaining the facilities. Retaining staff and continuing to provide a high-quality education should be the key priority. Historically, the numbers have been off, going from summer projections to the actual audited numbers. This leads to an even greater fund balance than previously expected, oftentimes hundreds of thousands of dollars. Thank you very much for your time. The only other thing that I wanted to add was it showed that the teaching staff was getting an increase, but the key word there was eligible. I believe that is talking about the members that are on steps, and over half of our staff is not on, is at the top of the staffs, or at the top of the steps, which would show that they would get zero increase. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I would just like to remind the board that we have a wage reopener after student count. Thank you.
Anybody else like to be recognized at this time in the audience?
Right, taking notes. All right, I move the Board of Education and the 6 PM, June 23rd budget hearing meeting
Yeah.
at 6:17 PM.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. We'll begin our regular board meeting at 6:30 PM.
Good to go?
Okay, welcome back for Monday, June 23rd, Almont Board of Education School Board regular meeting, reconvening at 6:30 PM. If you would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Burrow, will you do roll call, please?
Mr. Burrow? Here. Mr. Wade?
Here.
Mr. Otarius?
Here.
Ms. Fred?
Here.
Mr. Burns?
Here.
Ms. Smith?
Here.
We have all 7 present.
Thank you, Mr. Burrow. Adoption of the agenda, any addition?
No.
Any deletion?
The deletion we have is communications. We don't have a radar recognition tonight.
Any other communication?
No, that's it for tonight. Yeah, that was it. Yep.
Just want to make sure that.
Yes, thank you.
Questions and comments from the audience pertaining to the agenda. If you'd like to be addressed, please come up to the podium, state your first and last name. This is for anything that is on the agenda. There will be a second question and comment later on in the evening. Anybody at this time? Okay, thank you.
Ms. Smith?
Mr. Burrow.
I move that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda. A, approval of the minutes from the regular board meeting, May 19th, 2025. B, approval of the minutes from the special meeting, May 27th, 2025. Approval of the minutes from the special meeting, June 17th, 2025. Approval of the minute, D, approval of the minutes from the work session, June 17th, 2025.
Motion and support. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried.
Mrs. Smith.
Mr. Wade.
I move the Board of Education approve the bills payable and acknowledge the receipt of the financial reports as proposed by administration and reviewed by the Finance Committee as follows. May 20th, 2025 through June 23rd, 2025 disbursements. General fund total, $438,726.36. School lunch fund, $133,343.73. Student activity fund, $40,076.06. 2014 sinking fund, $0. Subtotal, $612,146.15. ACH wire transactions, payroll, May 30th and June 13th, $1,118,244.56. Edu staff, $9,621.47. Health equity HSA, $17,894.85. Credit card BMO, $26,774.16. Health insurance, $122,180.99. 2013 refunding bonds, $0.00. 2016 refunding bonds, $0.00. 2021 Series B refunding bonds, $0. State aid note payments, $0. QZAB Energy, $0. Arbiter pay, $0. ProCare fees, $0. Total funds spent, $1,906,862.18. Check numbers and voided checks as listed below.
Motion and support. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Please make sure that you take time to acknowledge our Orchard Primary, Almont Middle School, and Almont High School and student athletic student activity fund. New business.
Okay. Just quickly, my principals are going to be getting off to their summer break here very, very quickly. So there are no reports, principal reports for this month. They will resume in August. I did want to say, just kind of as a wrap up for the school year, as we close out another successful school year, I just wanted to take a moment to thank our entire school community for their continued partnership and support. I'm especially grateful to our dedicated administration, teachers, and support staff who've worked tirelessly to finish the year strong and are already planning and organizing for the upcoming school year. Their commitment to our students and schools never go unnoticed. We are also looking forward to some exciting updates this summer, including new OP windows, a refinished track, and other improvement projects around the school campus. Ultimately, these efforts reflect our ongoing investment in our students. Wishing everyone a very safe, restful, and a wonderful summer. So thank you, everyone.
And a finance.
All right. The Board of Education adopts the operating budgets for the school district. Adjustments in budget are to be presented to the board for approval. The board must adopt a budget which complies with Michigan law. The Board of Education adopted a preliminary budget in June 2024 for the 24-25 school year. It was then amended in February of 2025. Amendments to the budget continued to be necessary as events occurred throughout the school year, which altered both revenue and expenditure budget categories. In the revenue area, we show an overall increase of $959,992 from the amended 2024-2025 budget. The primary reason for this increase is due to unforeseen state categorical funding additions and federal final expenditure reports. In the expenditure area, there's a decrease of $1,004,702 from the amended 2024-2025 budget in February. The primary reason for this decrease is due to MIPSR and UAAL rate changes. The overall conservative approach to creating the budget versus actual, variance in budgeted hourly employee actual amounts versus highest potential allocated hours, one or more positions not able to be filled, etc. General fund revenues are now projected to be $627,798. General fund expenditures are now projected to be $17,404,810. The resulting surplus totaling $1,222,988 will be added to fund reserves. The general balance at the end of the year is projected to be $3,877,820.
Mrs. Smith,
Mr. Burns.
I move the Board of Education adopt the revised general fund budget for the 24-25 school year with revenues totaling $18,627,798 and expenses totaling $17,404,810, with the difference to be subtracted from the fund balance as presented, a copy of which is to be marked and attached to the official minutes of this meeting.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion?
Mrs. Smith?
Mr. Burrow.
I would just like to say that in lieu of some of the community conversations I've had, and I know that we amended the budget in February and thought we were going to be $700,000 short, and that changed radically. And I know that some of it was teaching staff that went out and got grants that we weren't expecting, and I applaud them for that. It would have been nice to be able to know that sooner so that we could have spent the money in this budget year. We could have looked into the Chromebook refresh sooner and got that fund balance down while also giving support to the staff and equipment as needed there. So that's all I have.
Any other discussion?
Mrs. Smith.
Mr. Wade.
Mr. Burrow, to your point, we had talked about, we also had we approved it in February, and then in March, we had to turn around where we had increase in the funding. We've talked about it with the Finance Committee of having, agreeing upon a certain percentage where we have that fluctuation, where we get an update to help us then move forward with those discussions.
Any other discussion?
It's not correct. So the resolution for adoption by the Board of Education of Almont Community Schools, general appropriation resolution. Resolved that this resolution shall be the general appropriation of Almont Community Schools for the 24-25 fiscal year. A resolution to make appropriations to provide for the expenditure of the appropriations to provide for the disposition of all revenues received by Almont Community Schools Be it further resolved that the total revenues and unappropriated fund balance estimated to be available for appropriation in the general fund of the school district for fiscal year 24-25, which includes 18 mills of ad valorem taxes to be levied on non-homestead and non-qualified agricultural property to be used for the operating purposes as follows. Revenue 1XX local, 1,744,619. 3XX state, $15,910,569. 4XX federal, $756,363. 5XX through 6XX other financing sources, $216,247. Total revenue, $18,627,798. Total audited fund balance, July 1st to appropriate, $2,654,832. Total available to appropriate, $21,282,630. Be it further resolved that $21,724,447 of the total available to appropriate in the general fund is hereby appropriated in the amounts and for the purposes set forth below. Expenditures, 1XX, instruction, 11X basic, $8,449,066. 12X added needs, $2,100,410. 2XX support, 21X pupil support, $666,684. 22X instructional staff support, $210,054. 23X general administration, $442,594. 24X school administration, $1,263,220. 25X business services, $443,518. 26X operations and maintenance, $1,684,256. 27X transportation, $1,046,740. 28X other central support, $425,211. 29X athletics, $446,568. 3XX community services, $67,722. 4XX through 6XX other financing services, $158,766. Total appropriated, $17,404,810. Further resolved that no Board of Education member or employee of the school district shall expend any funds or obligate the expenditure of any funds except pursuant to appropriations made by the Board of Education and in keeping with the budgetary policy heretofore adopted by the board. Changes in the amount appropriated by the board shall require board approval. Be it further resolved that the purposes of meeting emergency needs of the school district, transfers of appropriations may be made upon the written authorization of the superintendent, but no other transfer shall be made without prior approval of the Board of Education. When the superintendent makes a transfer of appropriations as permitted by this resolution, such transfer shall be presented to the Board of Education at its next regularly scheduled meeting in the form of appropriations amendment, which amendments shall be adopted by the Board of Education at such meeting. Now, time for the vote. By taking the roll call vote.
Yes, please.
Okay. Mr. Eckert? Ms. Fred?
Aye.
Mr. Burrow? Aye. Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Ms. Rotarius?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
We have 7 ayes, 0 nays. Vote passes.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Okay, moving on to the 2025, share the right page here. The 2025-2026 general fund budget adoption. The Board of Education must approve a school budget by July 1st of the fiscal year pursuant to state law. The Uniform Budgeting Act requires that an appropriation for the general operating fund of the school district be approved by the Board of Education. A preliminary tentative budget has been developed by the school administration for the 2025-2026 school year. Revenue is based upon a per pupil foundation allowance of $10,000 and 1,346 students. Expenditures were developed utilizing a zero-based approach that has become the norm for us. The approach helps us to be more accurate in many ways. Still, a number of factors, state aid bill, enrollment, utilities, health cap, MIPSR's rates, inflation impact, et cetera, are subject to change. The budget has been reviewed by board members at the May 27th special meeting and June 17th work session. A budget hearing was held at 6 p.m. on June 26, 2025, today. 23rd, I'm sorry, misread that. On June 23rd, 2025, today, at which time public discussion and input could be received. The budget can be revised at any time during the course of the fiscal year. Total general fund revenues are projected to be $17,846,800. Total general fund expenditures are projected to be $17,846,800. And the general fund balance at the end of the year is projected to be $3,877,820.
Mrs. Smith,
Mr. Burrow.
I move the Board of Education adopt the 2025-2026 general fund budget. Revenues, $17,846,800. Expenditures, $17,846,800 as presented, a copy of which is to be marked and attached to the official minutes of this meeting.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion?
Mrs. Smith,
Ms. Brett.
I had sent some questions to Ms. Van Hiltmeyer on some things that I just don't feel that I can really support in the budget. I'm not in support of anything that we're looking at that's new for next year. When I think that we should be looking at the things that we currently have, and we certainly have enough cuts being made there. I'm surprised that the track adjustments are not on this because Mrs. Dunn was aware of this on Thursday. She was working on the budget Thursday, Friday, but there have been some cost overruns in regard to the track that right now are just kind of out there in limbo as to where that's going to be paid from. And in talking to other colleagues on the Board of Ed here, it looked like it was coming to approximately $60,000 in overruns already, and I really think it's important that that be added to the budget. I know that I sent Mrs. Vaughn something in regard to the assistant coaches' expenses. My concern is that it's Schedule B, it's a staff contract. So if it's a staff member, it seems to me that they would be paid, whether they're an assistant coach or the varsity coach, because we have a contract with the AEA that would specifically say that. I think that we are taking too much money out of one particular category, and that would be athletics. And I think that that is it for right now. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Mrs. Smith.
Mr. Wade.
I've had multiple conversations over the last week in regards to this with the information. Zero-based budget, do we deficit spend? Where reductions are going to be made, where the money's going to come from, what is our student count, what funding will we get that we're not sure on, federal and state. I think there's still a lot of questions. I think that we have, we say we want this, and then we get this, and then we have more questions, and we really may want that. We have to have that understanding, what we can accept and what we want, and where that, with all those various things coming in and how they go through, with all the uncertainty. To Mrs. Fred's point, we do have an overrun on the track that is not built into this budget that will be a deficit spent as it is now. I would suggest that we table till later in the week to sort out those things. And maybe we get more information and have those discussions at a later date.
Mrs. Smith,
Ms. Fred.
sorry. I know that one of the things that we'd asked for as a finance committee, we wanted the cuts kind of rank order, put separately, but rank order so that we know where, if we receive more money or, as we look to the future, which things would be brought back. And I still haven't seen that. I don't know if there's a document out there, but I think that's an important document that we need before we make some final decisions on the budget.
Do you want to talk about the things that?
And if there's more discussion, is there more discussion from the board, and then I can address some of the things that have been said.
Any other discussion, Mr. Eckert?
Mrs. Smith, when's the next time that we're able to reevaluate the budget?
I'm sorry, say that.
When's the next time we're able to reevaluate the budget?
We would need to do it on Wednesday or Thursday night. So we can table this until Wednesday or Thursday night. I did get legal guidance on that as well. Any other discussion at this time?
Mrs. Smith,
Yes,
Um,
Mr. Burrow.
I just want to reiterate that, an audience member had asked in the previous discussion about the staff as a whole. I value our assistant coaches. I feel like they're part of that staff and they are included in the cuts. I don't think they should be, especially as I read through the budget and I saw things that are like furniture that we may or may not need, workshops and conferences for teachers, very important, but don't necessarily need to be scheduled right away, and we can amend that budget later. There were line items of gift cards to give out for teacher appreciation. Another thing very valuable. It's utilized in the world, but I think going into this first budget, I would like to retain the staff, the assistant coaching staff, before we look at those added in extras.
So just to be clear, we are asking for some of those items the line items to be looked at that maybe might be over, like you had brought up furniture, I think, where we can help retain staffing and keep that intact.
Yeah, I did provide a list to Ms. Vaughn, just like, there was $13,000 roughly in there for teacher appreciation. Once again, very valuable, appreciate the teachers. But I don't think, I would hope that no teacher would say, hey, I want to get a Tim Hortons gift card because I did a good job, but let's lay off other staff members as in coaches. I would hope that we could avoid that.
Any other discussion before Ms. Vaughn addresses us?
Is it appropriate to submit for tabling this?
Making a motion.
Sorry, I can hear you.
Is it appropriate right now to make a motion to table later in the week?
Mr. Wade already brought the motion, or you said it was motion, right? Yeah, Mr. Wade brought that before, and then Ms. Fred supported
I
it.
supported.
Yeah, Ms. Fred
Okay.
supported it. And so I think Ms. Vaughn.
I just to add,
Ms.
if I
Smith,
can-
we did not make he suggested that we did not do a motion in support of that.
You're saying
For the tabling, we did not do a motion in support.
for tabling it.
Correct, yeah, he did not, Mr. Wade did not go.
Oh, he just suggested.
I motioned,
I
he just
see.
suggested.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
no, we can do that. Yeah, yeah.
I made a motion. Discussion.
Or
Okay. Motion and support. Is there any discussion?
Can I just bring up but I just wanted to make sure that,
Yep.
I just wanted to make sure that there was a little bit, a narrative to go with what the board just brought up. Just want to make sure that everyone is aware that the track information, the quotes, came to us Thursday afternoon after Kathy was already way into the thick of, doing the budget and some of the revisions. So also, that has to be board approved as it's above our spending threshold. So my recommendation per my board report was that we move forward with a special meeting to address the track information, the quotes, because that is going to have to be board approved. So just as to why I didn't make a projection for that or add into that, there were various reasons and factors, but the biggest one is, again, having that board approval of what that number would look like for solidifying that number. And also Kathy was already in the, already working to do the revisions already. So we got that information very late. Also just wanted to also state that, of course, I know that there was a statement made about the assistant coaches. I felt because I had to touch teaching and curriculum, I thought it was appropriate to, explore all areas. And unfortunately, sometimes our extracurriculars, our program, our athletics also have to be analyzed and checked, especially when I'm being asked to cut approximately $400,000 in a very short period of time. So that is why that suggestion was made. So I do look forward to having more discussion, but I just want to make sure that it's known and communicated that we are definitely in support of our personnel. And unfortunately, when you're asked to cut that much out of the budget, there's, you have to make there's some difficult decisions that come with that. What I'm hopeful for is to get information from the state that's going to solidify our numbers and make this so I hope that our cuts are very minimal for what I think the entire board, can't speak for the board, but would want to share that through conversations and committee work that this board is definitely in support of, student programming in our staff here in the district. So I agree that there needs to be more discussion, but I do believe there's more narrative too that goes along with some of the statements that were brought at the table today. There needs to be more discussion about that and more explanation so everybody's making a well-informed decision and know all the facts on the table. Thank you.
There was a motion on the table to table this budget to a later date this week with support. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Were there opposed? No. All right, motion carried.
Okay, we're going to move on to 2025-2026 food service budget adoption. The Board of Education adopts the operating budgets for the school district. Adjustments in the budget are to be presented to the board for approval. The board must adopt a budget which complies with Michigan law. Facts number one, total revenues for the food service fund are expected to be $785,700. Total expenditures for the food service fund are expected to be $785,700. Number three, surplus zero. Number four, projected fund balance, $346,287.
Mrs. Smith,
Mr. Burrow,
I move the Board of Education adopt the revised 2025-2026 food service fund budget as presented, a copy of which be marked and attached to the official minutes of this meeting.
Support.
motion and support. Any discussion?
Resolution for adoption by the Board of Education of Almont Community Schools General Appropriation of Food Services Fund. Resolved that this resolution shall be the general appropriation of Almont Community Schools for the 2025-2026 fiscal year. A resolution to make appropriations, provide for the expenditure of the appropriations, and to provide for the disposition of all revenues received by Almont Community Schools. Be it further resolved that the total revenues and unappropriated fund balance estimated to be available for appropriator in the Food Services Fund of the school district for fiscal year 2025-2026 to be used for the operating purposes as follows. Revenue X1XX local, $37,200. 3XX state, $503,000. 4XX federal, $245,500. 5XX to 6XX other financing sources. Total revenue, or $0. Total revenue, $785,700. Total unassigned fund balance July 1st to appropriate, $346,287. Total available to appropriate, $1,131,987. Be it further resolved that $763,260 of the total available to appropriate in the food service is hereby appropriated in the amounts and for the purposes set forth below. Expenditures, 2XX support, 29X other central support, $785,700. 4XX to 6XX other financing services, $0. Total appropriated, $785,700. Further resolved that no Board of Education member or employee of the school district shall expend any funds or obligate the expenditure of any funds except pursuant to appropriations made by the Board of Education and in keeping with budgetary policy heretofore adopted by the board. Changes in the amount appropriated by the board shall require approval of the board. Be it further resolved that for purposes of meeting emergency needs of the school district, transfers of appropriations may be made upon the written authorization of the superintendent, but no other transfers shall be made without prior approval of the Board of Education. When the superintendent makes a transfer of appropriations as permitted by this resolution, such transfer shall be presented to the Board of Education at its next regular scheduled meeting in the form of an appropriation amendment, which amendment shall be adopted by the Board of Education at such meeting. Moving to the vote.
Yes, please.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Otarius?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Eckert? Ms. Fred?
Aye.
Mr. Burrow? Aye. Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Smith, we have a 7-0 vote.
Thank you, Mr. Burrow.
We're going to move to the 2025-2026 student activities budget adoption. The Board of Education adopts the operating budgets for the school district. Budgets are to be presented to the board for approval. The board must adopt a budget which complies with Michigan law. Facts number 1, total revenues for the student activity fund are expected to be $350,000. Total expenditures for the student activity fund are expected to be $350,000. Projected fund balance, $280,928.
Mrs. Smith?
Mr. Burrow.
I move the Board of Education adopt the revised 2025-2026 student activity fund budget as presented, a copy of which is to be marked and attached to the official minutes of this meeting.
Support.
Motion and support. Burrow?
Resolution for adoption by the Board of Education of Almont Community Schools, general appropriation of the student activity fund. Resolved that this resolution shall be the general appropriation of Almont Community Schools for the 2025-2026 fiscal year, a resolution to make appropriations, to provide for the expenditure of the appropriations, and to provide for the disposition of all revenues received by Almont Community Schools. Be it further resolved that the total revenues and unappropriated fund balance estimated to be available for appropriator in the student activity fund of the school district for fiscal year 2025-2026 to be used for the operating purposes as follows. Revenue, 1XX local, $350,000. 3XX state, $0. 4XX federal, $0. 5XX to 6XX other financing sources, $0. Total revenue, $350,000. Total unassigned fund balance, July 1st to appropriate, $280,928. Total available to appropriate, $630,928. Be it further resolved that $300,000 of the total available to appropriate in the student activity fund is hereby appropriated in the amounts for the purposes set forth below. Expenditures, 2XX support, 296 student activities, $350,000. 4XX to 6XX other financing services, $0. Total appropriated, $350,000. Further resolved that no Board of Education member or employee of the school district shall expend any funds or obligate the expenditure of any funds except pursuant to the appropriations made by the Board of Education and in keeping with the budgetary policy statement heretofore adopted by the board. Changes in the amount appropriated by the board shall require approval of the board. Be it further resolved that for the purposes of the meeting emergency needs of the school district, transfers of appropriations may be made upon the written authorization of the superintendent, but no other transfers shall be made without prior approval of the Board of Education. When the superintendent makes a transfer of appropriations as permitted by this resolution, such transfers shall be presented to the Board of Education at its next regularly scheduled meeting in the form of an appropriation amendment, which amendment shall be adopted by the Board of Education at such meeting.
Burrow?
All right. Votes, Mr. Burrow, aye. Ms. Thread,
Aye.
Mr. Eckert, Mr. Wade,
Aye.
Mr. Otarius,
Aye.
Mr. Burns,
Aye.
Ms. Smith.
Aye.
We have 7 votes.
Thank you, Mr. Burrow.
Okay, Okay, moving on to water bottle fill stations contract. When the purchase of and contract for single items of supplies, materials, or equipment exceeds the amount designated by statute, the district shall obtain competitive bids, policy 6320. We have received the results from the drinking fountain water bottle fill stations, RFP. 4 companies sent proposals, and they have both been reviewed and verified by Mr. Frederick. Mr. Frederick recommends the district utilize Thumb Cooling and Heating. The vendor amounts and, I'm sorry, the vendors and the totals. So we had Contrast Mechanical at $124,000, CSM Mechanical at $55,075, Allied Building Service at $132,340, and Thumb Cooling and Heating at $127,499. Discussed and recommended by committee, 3-0.
Mrs. Smith.
Mr. Ray.
I move the Board of Education award the drinking fountain water bottle fill stations contract to Thumb Cooling and Heating.
Support?
Motion and support. Any discussion? Mr. Eckert.
How do we handle cost overruns in the project? What is the expectation we see back from in lieu of what's going on with the track?
Can you repeat your question, Mr. Eckert, please?
Kind of in the same thinking of what's going on with the track. and
Okay.
cost overruns. What's the expectation that this is a hard, fast number? We don't have this, right?
I would have to go back and, obviously have that conversation if you're asking me to dig into the contract, like the contract moving forward, if there's any contingencies, kind of given what's going on with the track. I think that's what you're asking about, but I would have to go forward. I would have to ask and dig in.
Okay.
I don't have that answer today because I was not directly involved with the Thumb Cooling and Heating representatives.
I can follow that.
Sure, but I didn't know if you're going to approve it. Yeah, I can follow up if you want
How
to.
we handle that. That's
Ms.
Mr. Burrow.
Just to answer part of your question, Mr. Eckert, this is a grant funded, filling station, so this one should be covered by the state. At our previous meeting, the work session, Mr. Frederick said that this was coming under cost of what that grant would allow. So we should, like this one, in and of itself, we should.
And to add to that, I think there was additional funding for him to get filters for quite a while.
That was denied.
Oh, that was denied?
Yes.
Okay.
That was denied.
Well, we were hopeful.
Yes, right. Just want to let you know that was denied. So if there's worries about contingencies, I would have to follow up with you. Yep.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. And we'll be moving on to policy.
Starting with resignations, the Board of Education may agree to a resignation or retirement at any time after a replacement suitable to the school administration and the board is obtained, provided that the circumstances underlying the resignation or retirement are valid in the opinion of the board and warrant a search for a replacement. Mrs. Mary Campbell has resigned from the district after 20 years as a teacher at Almont High School. Mrs. Nicole Lohoff has resigned from her position as media center aide at Almont High School to work full-time at her other job. Ms. Katie Ann Murphy has resigned from her position as special education paraprofessional at Almont High School to pursue another career path. Veronica Castillo has resigned from her position as recess aide at Orchard Primary. Cole Walton has resigned from his position at Orchard Primary to attend college. Rebecca Schlund has resigned from her position at Orchard Primary to accept a position in another district. Discussed and recommended by committee 3-0.
Mrs. Smith?
Mrs. Rotarian.
I move the Board of Education accept the resignations of Mary Campbell, Nicole Lohoff, Katie Ann Murphy, Veronica Castillo, Cole Walton, and Rebecca Schlund, and wish them well in their future endeavors.
Motion and support. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried.
On to new hires. The Board of Education approves all personnel. With the retirement of Kelly Ebley, Mr. Spear is pleased to recommend Mrs. Laura Livermore for the position of the counseling secretary for Almont High School. Mrs. Livermore comes to us with a wealth of experience working for DHHS and is also a parent of an ACS student. Ms. Cynthia Howe will be joining Almont High School as a new interventionist. Mr. Spears is excited to welcome Ms. Howe with her years of experience in education as a classroom teacher, administrator, and interventionist. And you'll get to meet her tonight. She's in the audience, just FYI. Ms. Lewis is pleased to recommend Mr. Seth Hartshorn as the new fifth grade teacher at Almont Middle School. Mr. Hartshorn comes to ACS with 8 years of experience teaching and coaching. AMS is excited to welcome him into the fold. Miss Marin Luxgrant has joined the staff at Orchard Primary and will be a new paraprofessional in the MOSI classroom. Mrs. Kimberly Zondervan is also joining the staff at Orchard Primary as a new lunch recess aide and comes to us with years of experience in a school setting. Mr. Bruno is also excited to welcome recent graduate, Miss Katie Hedinger, into the fold at Orchard Primary. Katie helped out during lunches for the last week of school and is looking forward to working at Orchard Primary in the coming school year as a paraprofessional. Mike Denoyer is being recommended as a news media specialist at Almont High School. Mr. Denoyer has served as the building substitute for several years at Almont High School and has helped out throughout the building in a variety of roles. Mr. Eric Johnson will be taking on the role of varsity girls golf coach this coming year, along with his teaching role at Almont Middle School. Mr. Johnson has been employed by Almont Community Schools for many years and has been helping with the golf program as an assistant for several years. We also have a Gex hire tennis coach for varsity boys. Discussed by Personnel Committee, recommended 3-0.
Mrs. Smith?
Mrs. Rotaria?
I move the Board of Education approve the hiring of Laura Livermore, Seth Hartshorn, Cindy Howe, Marin Luxgrant, Kim Zondervan, and Katie Hedinger, and welcome them to the district. The board also approved of the recommendations for both the boys varsity tennis coach and girls varsity golf coach.
Motion and support. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Can I invite Cindy to the stage?
That'd be
Mrs.
great.
Howe, would you like to come up and meet the Board of Education, please? And I also want to thank her husband, Jeremy, for coming out to support as well. Thank you. So this is Cindy Howe. our new high school president.
Hi, welcome. Nice to like your shirt.
I don't know which way to go. Come to the front.
Yes. It's awkward reaching across the table.
Yeah,
welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for attending the meeting.
And Mrs. Howe, we have one more.
Yes.
Ms. Frederickson here.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for being here.
Welcome. Thank you.
We're going to move to our summer tech student workers. The Board of Education approves the employment of all personnel. The technology director has used some summer tech help for the past few years to ready the technology for the coming year. This year, Mr. Markland is recommending the students listed below on your sheet. All the students listed below in this sheet come highly recommended by Mr. Markland, both for their professionalism and experience. By hiring this summer help, we can ready the district technology for the coming year. Recommended by committee 3-0.
Mrs. Smith?
Mrs. Rotaria?
I move the Board of Education employ the students listed below as summer tech help. Students, Adam St. Ange, Jenna Klein, Lennon Myers, Jacob Bialcini.
Motion and support. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Moving on to secretarial contracts. The Board of Education approves the employment contracts of all personnel. The secretaries at the buildings have an association and such the association bargains their contract. The attached contract and all changes have been discussed with the board at previous meetings. The proposed 2-year contract is competitive and appropriate. Recommended by committee 3-0.
Mrs. Smith?
Mrs. Rotaria?
I move the Board of Education approve the attached secretarial contract, which will be marked and attached to the official minutes of this meeting.
Motion and support. Any discussion?
Mrs. Smith?
Yeah.
I believe it was discussed at the work session that if we hadn't passed the budget tonight, that this was going to be tabled. Is that correct?
That was correct.
Am I the one table?
I'm good.
Oh,
now.
I see Mr. Wiggum. All right. Mrs. Smith,
Mr. Burrow?
I move the Board of Education table the attached secretarial contract until the conclusion of the budget for 25-26.
Motion and support. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Burrow.
The Board of Education approves the employment contracts of all personnel. The non-representative employees outlined in the benefits booklet presented have contracts that expire on July 1st. In accordance with recommendations from the ORS, a benefits booklet has been prepared to outline pay scales and other fringe benefits for employees that are not in bargaining groups.
I don't have that one in my packet. Thank you. All right. Mrs. Smith?
Mrs. Rotaria?
I move the Board of Education approve the contract booklet for the employees outlined.
Motion and support. Any discussion at this time?
Mrs. Smith, if we are tabling the secretarial contract, for those purposes, we should do so for this as well.
Correct.
Got this one. I move we table the benefits booklet until conclusion of the budget for 25-26. Support.
Motion and support. All in favor? Aye. I'm sorry. Motion and support. Any discussion? Sorry, guys.
Yeah, no, you're okay. So when would this be voted on again? Would we be voting on it at the end of the budget meeting we're gonna have?
Yeah.
We would vote on
Yeah,
these.
we would most likely will have a special.
So we don't have to have like a big delay of
Yeah.
a month. We could have it.
No, yeah, it would be at that one.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Mrs. Smith,
Mr. Wade?
as I looked through the drive, I saw a file in there for the secretarial of Almont, Richmond, Armada, Romeo, with information from that. I had asked at the work session for comparables. Do we have that as well? If we have it for the secretarials, do we have it for these positions as well?
No, we don't have it outlined like that, Mr. Wade. I was using like transparency reporting in the districts to acquire that information. I didn't have the time to put together like a spreadsheet like I did for the secretarial because they're a bargaining unit. So I thought that was the right direction to go. Whereas our non-reps are kind of individual and they wear a lot of hats. So it's hard for me to make those apples to comparisons. But I wanted to stay in step with how we're recognizing the other other agreements, the units. And that's what we put forward was the non-rep booklet to kind of streamline those benefits and compensation package, if you will. So that's what I put forward to the board. More information, and then just depending on when we meet again, it's just really hard to do the apples to apples comparison. Certainly can in some areas, a lot easier. For example, principal, but some other ones are a little tougher to do. So what I can do if we're going to table this is bring as much as I can, to that next session. So again, that you have a way to make an informed decision. But it's going to be, again, a little difficult, challenging. And I think you understand that with all the hats people wear. It's just not always a apples to apples comparison. But I certainly will bring what I can.
Any other discussion? Ms. Frog?
I think that it's really important that as we take a look at something brand new like that we get back to doing the 5-year budget that they used to do. The latest copy that I have here is 2008, 2009. We've got to see how this impacts our budget for several years, not just for next year. And, just for this year, we might end up just having to do a 1 year as we dive into this a little bit more. But I think that we have to look at a bigger picture as we're making decisions like this.
Thank you. Any other discussion? We'll have the motion on the floor, right? Yep. Okay. All right. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried.
Moving on to teacher change in pay. In order to be eligible to advance from one lane on the salary schedule to a higher lane, a teacher must make written proof of the completion of courses and/or degree requirements in the form of an official transcript of credits from the institution from which the credits were earned. Master agreement between the Board of Education and the Almont Education Association. Laura Toner is moving from MA to MA plus 15. Tanya Halverson is moving from MA to MA plus 15. Recommended by committee 3-0.
Mrs. Smith?
Mrs. Rotaria?
I move the Board of Education advance Laura Toner and Tanya Halverson to the appropriate level of the salary schedule in accordance with provisions outlined in the master agreement between the Board of Education and the Almont Education Association and commend her for her commitment to continued learning.
Motion and support. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried.
Moving on to the 2026 trip abroad. The Board of Education approves all student trips which require an overnight stay or out-of-state travel, policy 2340. Mrs. Blum would like to organize a trip to take students to see different parts of the world. This next trip will be to England and Ireland. The trip is through EFT Tours and will be guided from day one until they leave to come back. The trip will provide an excellent opportunity for students to expand and deepen recognition and appreciation of Irish and English cultures, as well as provide a great opportunity to experience multinational cultures and languages. Recommended by committee 3-0.
Mrs. Smith?
Mrs. Rotarian.
I move the Board of Education approve the trip to England and Ireland planned for June 2026.
Motion and support. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried.
Moving on to the 2025-2026 MHSAA membership. A resolution from the Board of Education is required for our schools to be participating members of the Michigan High School Athletic Association. Number one, Almont Middle School and Almont High School have been members of the Michigan High School Athletic Association for many years. Number two, the MHSAA is a voluntary nonprofit corporation comprised of public, private, and parochial middle, junior high, and senior high schools whose boards of education have voluntarily applied for and received membership. Number three, the association sponsors statewide tournaments and makes eligibility rules with respect to participation in contests. Number four, by applying for membership, a district stipulates that it will abide by the rules and regulations set forth by the association. Number five, in order for our athletic teams to participate in postseason tournaments, we must be a member of MHSAA. Number six, the attached resolution will reflect our intent for both the middle school and high school to be members of MHSAA. This is discussed and recommended by committee 3-0.
Mrs. Smith?
Mrs. Rotarian.
I move the Board of Education adopt the Michigan High School Athletic Association membership resolution for the 2025-2026 school year.
Motion and support. Sorry.
Was I supposed, there's a blurb
Nope,
that
you're
I'm
good.
supposed
So
to read?
motion
Okay.
and support. Now you read that part.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The Board of Education governing body hereby delegates to the superintendent or his/her designee the responsibility for the supervision and control of said activities, and hereby accepts the Constitution and bylaws of said association and adopts as its own the rules, regulations, and interpretations as minimum standards as published in the current handbook as the governing code under which the said school shall conduct its program of interscholastic athletics, and agrees to primary enforcement of said rules, regulations, interpretations, and qualifications. In addition, it is hereby agreed that schools which host or participate in the association's meets and tournaments shall follow and enforce all tournament policies, procedures, and schedules. This authorization shall be effective from August 1st, 2025, and shall remain effective until July 31, 2026, during which the authorization may not be revoked.
Do we need to do a roll call for that this time? Or no?
I was gonna say, I'd be, yeah, safe to do one.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Ms. Rotarius?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Eckert?
Aye.
Ms. Fred?
Aye.
Mr. Burrows? Aye. Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Smith, we have a 7-0 vote.
Thank you.
Okay, then moving on to 2025-2026 MASB membership. Bylaw 0175 states the Board of Education may consider membership in the Michigan Association of School Boards. That's MASB. The MASB provides a wealth of opportunities for workshops and conferences for members in addition to such resources as the MASB Journal, Headlines, Tenure Digest. Also, MASB provides several informational annual reports. For example, the annual teacher contract settlement report, the superintendent's salary and fringe benefit report, and the administrator's salary report. Number two, it's important to note that membership in the MASB allows the district to take advantage of the set SAG insurance pools, which have been very beneficial to us. And number three, the fee for the 2025-2026 school year is $4,374.66, Last year's rate was $4,378.93. The fee includes a contribution to the legal trust fund. The trust fund provides financial and legal assistance to districts facing lawsuits having major statewide impact on school district operations. Discussed and recommended by committee 3-0.
Mrs. Smith?
Mrs. Rosario?
I move the Board of Education approve membership in the Michigan Association of School Boards for the 2025-2026 school year.
Motion and support. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, moving on to the handbooks. The Board of Education approves the student handbooks of each school. The policies and procedures contained in the handbook serve as a guide for our students. By approving changes to the handbooks, the changes become a part of district policy. Changes to the handbooks were discussed. Handbooks and changes were also posted in Google Drive for the board's review. Recommended by committee 3-0.
Mrs. Smith?
Mrs. Rosario?
I move the Board of Education approve the recommended changes to the high school handbook, the recommended changes to the Orchard Primary Handbook, the recommended changes to the middle school handbook.
Motion and support. Any discussion? Mr. Burrow?
I just want to commend, I know this was a big undertaking for the secretarial staff to do this, and I was looking at it, they look great, so I just wanted to say thank you for getting them all in line so they look more uniform as a district and all that, so I do appreciate that.
I agree. Thank you to all that worked on them. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to curriculum.
No course of study shall be taught in the schools unless it has been adopted by the board, policy 2220, with the opportunity to receive 35M grant funding to purchase new materials for the legislation that requires all schools adopt curriculum and assessment supports for dyslexia by 2027-2028 school year. The new curriculum information has been provided, and Mr. Bruno is recommending CKLA as the new curriculum to comply with the legislation and qualify for the grant funding. Discussed and recommended by committee 3-0.
Smith?
Ms. Frye?
I move that the Board of Education approves the adoption of CKLA as the new K-5 reading curriculum.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion?
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
I think that we just have to be aware as we're approving this, and it sounds absolutely phenomenal, and thank you, Mr. Bruno, for all of that extra work that you put into this, that there's gonna be some costs on our end that we're gonna have to be looking at. We don't know what they're going to be at the present time, but we have to recognize that there are gonna be some costs at our end.
Any other discussion? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what Sue said. Thank you, Mr. Bruno, for putting this together. Make sure you pass along the thanks to your staff, because I know that they all had to race to get to conferences and stuff and their workshops to learn about it. So we appreciate that.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. This leads us to our last questions and comments from the audience. If you would like to be recognized, please come up to the podium. You can state your first and last name. You'll have 3 minutes. Just as a reminder, if there's anything that needs to be responded to, our superintendent will get back to you.
Paul Bowman, will the board be setting the meeting that's, everything's been postponed till tonight?
All right.
No, it's okay. Yes, we're gonna set the, we'll be setting a special meeting to again, push forward with the budget.
Do you know what day it'll be on?
I don't, so we'll probably have to make a decision Wednesday or Thursday.
Thank you.
And get that posted.
Thank you. Anybody else like to be recognized at this time? No? Okay. Questions and comments from the Board of Education? Mr. Burrow?
Ms. Smith, first off, I would like to say how refreshing it is to see a new staff member come to the board meeting. It's a great opportunity for us, and we don't often get an opportunity to meet the staff right away. So we really appreciate you guys coming out today. Thank you for that. And then the other thing is, I just want to recognize, I know we did it in the meeting before, but I I know that there's a ton of work from all parties going into this budget right now. And just want to encourage Grace. We have board members that have never been a part of this process before. And we're learning as we go, and we're putting dozens of hours into it ourselves, trying to make sure that we're doing the right thing for an almost 10,000 person community that we're responsible for. And I know that Ms. Merrifield has put countless hours into this. And last year, I think we had, from what I understand, we had a company that helped us through this process. And this year we don't. So that is recognized. Thank you very much for that as well.
I would, anybody else have anything?
I wanted to echo what Mr. Bureau said. I want to thank Kathy for her hours and her time that she's been putting into this. As Mr. Bureau said, there are 4 of us that are new here. We are learning as fast as we can. We are putting in the time, the effort. I also just want to thank everyone who came here, the new staff. I think that's awesome that we actually got to meet you, your husband as well. Thank you. Again, thank you everyone for your hard work.
Any other discussion, comments? I would like to commend the 4 new board members. They have been working tirelessly to understand the budget, asking questions, phone calls, texting, email. So there is a lot of effort going into this to make sure that we are all parties that are involved are doing the right thing for our district. So thank you all. Future agenda items. Anybody?
Mrs. Smith.
It's great.
As we move forward with the budget, we had a windfall, is best I can say it, with the state looking back with the UAL and with the extra funding. We're in a position where through whatever happens on Thursday or Wednesday, whenever we decide we're going to meet, we set a plan with the technology of how we would want to go through with that and that type of thing. We also should be doing so in other areas that are needed. Should we go through and we still have that windfall to look forward, at least start that process of projects that are, that have been on the back burner, gathering information of what can be done, cost, that type of thing. If we start that process, the sooner would be better.
Are you thinking infrastructure?
Facilities, anything that is, if it's broken, let's see if we can fix it. If it needs updating, let's see if we can update it within reason, within all the context of everything we've got to talk about.
Any other, Mr. Burke?
I know that it was in the board reports. If there's any opportunity, I believe that the track is a rush to get people out here for scheduling. If we could merge that with the budget discussion and get an approval that night, I think that would be a wise thing to try to get on the
That'd be a
agenda
wonderful
so that we
idea.
can get Mr. Frederick continuing on that project in lieu of the scheduling purposes for that.
Do you want to set a meeting now, Ms. Bond? Do you want to look at Thursday night?
I'm open. It was really about the board, so I'm open all week. So I'm good with that. I just have to check in with
Thursday night?
Mrs. Merrifield as well. Like for her to be, obviously she'll have to be a part of this.
Okay. Wednesday night, Mrs. Rotary cannot make Thursday. Can everybody make Wednesday night? Not make Wednesday night?
Mrs. Merrifield, are you available for
Wednesday
Wednesday?
night, rather not Thursday night.
I'm sorry.
Wednesday night is preferable.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, Wednesday night?
Wednesday sounds like the consensus.
Okay, Wednesday
Wednesday,
night.
okay. And so we'll
So
do
we'll get that
Wednesday, yeah, Wednesday.
We'll have a special meeting for the track.
Yep.
We'll have
Are we thinking 6 o'clock, like we would normally
6
do a
o'clock
special meeting? 6 o'clock work for
Read
everybody?
at 6, I'm coming from closing, I'll get your read at 6.
Okay.
6 o'clock? Yes, that would be great.
So we'll have a special meeting about the track. We'll have we'll do the budget, the track.
Yep.
Get it
So
all.
Wednesday, 6 o'clock at Almont Middle School in the media center.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Any other future agenda items? We'll be moving into a closed session for the superintendent's evaluation. There's no new business afterward that I am aware of.
Mrs. Smith,
Mr. Burrow,
I move Board of Education move to go into closed session at 7:34 PM for the superintendent's evaluation.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?